Hi again everyone, how's all doing? So this is a Hornby Evening Star locomotive. This was sent to me by Andrew, who also sent me the APT that I worked on recently. And this is an old one from the 1970s. I remember these things from the Hornby catalogue back in the day. I think they were one of Hornby's earliest tender-driven locomotives, if not the very first one actually, this thing. I remember my dad saying, "Oh, you don't want one of them, son, it's got the motors in the tender," you know. And I think this thing is definitely from the 1970s, given the state of it. It's in a bit of a manky state. Look at the tender there. So it's clearly just been sat unused for a long time. The motion brackets are broken on both sides, so we'll have to sort that. But other than that, hopefully this is a clean-up, replace the motion bracket, sort out the tender, and it should be good to go. I'd love to see this thing running. I've never actually seen one of these things running. I always thought it was a bit of an odd looking locomotive with its lots of wheels and the big gap underneath the body between the chassis and the locomotive body there. So we'll get this to the bench and see what's what. Okay, so look at this a bit closer. Not seeing anything unusual in there, just looks like the ring-filled motor. And of course that just falls off, and yeah, ring-filled motor in pretty good condition actually by the looks of it. Actually that fits on okay actually, it comes off nice and easy, but I don't think that needs fixing. So we shall have a look at the motor in a minute, but I want to have a look at the locomotive and see what's going on here. Crikey, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 screws and a screw for that. So a lot of screws and a lot of wheels, and the motion bracket in this thing isn't the usual sort of little, sort of crossbar type affair. It's actually part of the under panel to the body, and I do have a replacement. So normally I would work on the tender first, but I know I can get that going. But I'm more intrigued by the locomotive on this thing, so let's see if we can get it apart and get it sorted. Start by undoing this screw, and does this just come apart? Yes and no. Or does it just stuck? There we go, just needed a wee bit of persuasion. Okay, so what I was anxious to see is this the correct part? It appears to be. Screw here, undo that, and does this just lift out? It looks like it's been a bit of a bodge repair, so that's been glued on to try and hold in place. Just get that off. There we go. So we'll clean this up. Obviously there's a lot of what looks like scatter in there. Oh Jesus, yeah, it's a right old mess. So obviously we'll have to give that a good clean. I just want to make sure that this does actually fit. So that goes in there, goes in there. So this isn't a brand new replacement part. There's some dirt there, and there's actually some spider eggs there. Okay, I'm happy that's going to fit. So we'll need to get this all cleaned up. Get the glue off this linkage. I'm hoping this underframe allows these wheels to come out and that they're not going through the chassis. Let's have a look. The last thing I want to do on this is take the valve gear assembly apart and pull the wheels, and yeah, excellent. The axles there have got little bearings and everything, that's really nice, so I'm not convinced this is 1970s. Is there an R number on it? I'm wondering if this is a later one. So let me know if that's how it was in the 1970s, that's quite interesting. But these will all need cleaned. Give it a squirt with the contact cleaner just to free it all up. Just get some of the dirt out. So we want to make sure that these axles are nice and clean to help it run nice and smoothly, and also to conduct electricity efficiently. that's reasonably clean. So we'll pop some power lube in these. You do not want to over lubricate these. Just keep them nice and free, and they should be fine. The wheels are going to need a good clean. I think we've got enough of the dirt out of there that we can now fit the replacement under panel and motion bracket. So that tucks under there, goes down, and then that should come down and just slide into its wee slot. That one went in easier. I just dropped that screw there and it went straight in the hole. Couldn't do that if I tried. Okay, hopefully that's the chassis repaired. All seems to go okay. The wheels aren't too dirty actually, but we'll give them a good clean. Let's have a look at all the linkages. We'll give them an oil. I mean, ideally, to be honest with you, this really should all come apart and get a good clean. But it'll be fine, it'll run. It's a lot of wheels to clean. I think we're pretty much done with the chassis. Let's have a look at the Ringfield motor. We'll remove these weights and unplug that and unplug that, and then this should push out. Oh geez, the springs are hanging out here. There we go, like so. What the gears like? Gears look okay and the spindles look okay. Let's release the brushes. No, the springs haven't come out. What do you reckon? Think of one, both, neither? Neither. And that tells you it's dirty. Remove the gears. There's this one. Yeah, I don't have to pull the wheels on this one, but I will do anyway, because it's the best way to clean them, to ensure they pick up electricity correctly. So they're getting pulled. All clips intact. Can lift them up. Come on. It's very easy seeing how these things get broken. There we go. Out it comes, and we'll get the brushes out. Boom! What state are they in? Just as well, I've got a bunch of new ones in because they're done. There's the commutator. I'm sure if you've watched a lot of my videos, you probably think you're just doing the same thing over and over again with these things, and that's true. You know, once you've done a few of these things, it is just, yeah, same process every time. If this was my locomotive, I would be tempted probably not to show you this part because I've done it so often now. You know the score, you take it apart, you clean it up, you clean the commutator, put it back together, lubricate it, etc. But because this is not my locomotive, you know, the person who sent me this to repair, Andrew, he'll be watching this, and it's interesting for him to see what I do. So, you know, okay, you've seen me do this loads of times, but just for the owner, I make sure I try and film as much as I can. I can't, you know, show everything, every single step, but try and show as much as I can, just so you know that I have done it. Wouldn't it be good when you put your car in for a service if they gave you a video of them actually servicing it? You would watch that very closely, wouldn't you? Clean the axles with T-cut as well, and then give these a good spray. So on the tender body here, I'm just using a paintbrush just to get rid of all the dust and dirt. Paintbrush gets into all the wee nooks and crannies, so it's really the best way to do it without doing any damage. And then I'm just going to use a cotton bud and some soapy water, and we'll just give it all a wipe over. Don't want to use any kind of solvent or anything, just plain soapy water is all you want to use. And be very careful with the lining and that decal, so try not to get the decal wet. If this was my locomotive, I think I would replace the decals. This one is really dirty, and I think it's just years and years and years of hands picking it up. I don't clean every locomotive that I get sent like this, but when it's so blatantly caked in it like this, it's you know, you just have to. Some of the black paint is chipped away at the front of the chimney there. That's a shame. There's a lot of sort of black grimy stuff that's quite stubborn, but it is coming off slowly. I'll let it dry off, but that's looking pretty good. While I've got some soapy water, I'm going to put these gears in. I'll just get some of the dirt off of these. I think we'll give them a file. So I'm going to put some gear oil on this bearing here, and then we'll pop this on, and then we shall pop some shiny new brushes in. One in there, one in there, and a couple of new springs. Pop in the spring, squish it down, and put that down to catch it, and then give that a bit of a bend, just to make sure it's just in the right position. Okay, put battery in this. Here it goes, in both directions. Alright, we shall get some grease on these spindles ready for the gears. One on there, that on there, that on there. And we'll stick some gear oil behind the pinion and on the pinion itself. So wheels, we'll get some power lube on them, and then put on the wheel. Check the condition of the traction tyres. Actually, they seem fine. I think that'll do. Okay, pop this back in. It's quite a tight fit. There we go. And pop the tender cover back on, which fits quite nicely. Where does this go in? I think that goes in there like that. That. Screw down the mirror, screw that down, and I think we're done. Let's put this on the test track, see what happens. Okay, it goes forwards, it goes backwards. Seems okay, but we won't know for sure until we go and stick it in the lathe, so let's do that. Okay, let's see how this goes. Turn on the power. It's going. Ooh, lumpy, lumpy. Yeah, I was a wee bit worried that this thing would run a bit lumpy with all those old dirty axles. They're obviously going to have to be a bit more thoroughly cleaned than what I've done. I'll also look at the connection on the drawbar between the locomotive chassis and the tender. I did overlook that, I have to admit. I should have given that a clean. So I'll do that first. Maybe it's something as simple as that, but I've got a horrible feeling I'm going to have to take all those wheels out and give everything a really good deep clean. Okay, so before I do any drastic dismantling, we'll take this off and see what sort of state it's in. because this isn't one of the ones that has a nice spring that keeps a good connection. This just screws in. Yeah, that's actually quite dirty. So we'll give that a good clean, and we'll try running it again. So I'm just putting some tea-cut on this because there is a lot of dirt in it. The other thing I could do is run a wire from the chassis somewhere and solder it to this, just to ensure, because that's very loose. Okay, try again. I should not be hesitating over points. Still very, very lumpy. So after a bit of head scratching, I was thinking of running a wire from the screw that holds on the motion bracket panel back and then down and through a little hole that I drilled in the panel and behind these pipes into the connector here on the drawbar. But then I realised, well, hang on a minute, the screw that holds on the body is metal and goes into the chassis, so there's a screw right there, right next to it. So I put a washer around here and soldered a wire onto the washer and onto the copper contact on the drawbar. So when you screw that in, the chassis is now making much better contact with this, and hopefully that'll solve the problem. If it doesn't, then I'm taking the wheels off and cleaning them again, but we'll see how this goes. Let's go and give it a try. Okay, let's try this. Oh, a lot better going over the points anyway. So that's definitely running an awful lot better with that little wire connecting the chassis to the drawbar contact. I may still have a play around with it yet. It's a bit hesitant on a couple of my points, but that's maybe just my points. Because otherwise, on the open track, it seems to run fine. And I'm not convinced that little wire that I've put in will last that long because it's constantly getting bent back and forth. So I'll maybe have a wee think to see if there's something better I can do. The owner doesn't need this back for a few weeks, so I've got some time to have a think about it and play around with it. But other than that, there we go. I would say that's this old Evening Star running again. Okay folks, catch you later.